Gerry Visca, the founding publisher of Defyeneurs, and this is an exciting time, an exciting live interview with Rod Norville of Ontario. And Rod is an exclusive profile in the largest issue of Defyeneurs mag, the top 50 relationship marketing tips. Welcome, Rod.
Hello, Gerry. How are you?
Fantastic. We're so honored to have your energy in this issue, Rod. You know, you're one of the most inspiring and one of the most positive men that I've seen. And I'm really excited for listeners to get a sense of your energy. And I want to kick this time off with a quote that you shared, which I really love. And it goes like this: my recommendation is to find something good in everybody and focus on pointing it out to them every chance you get. I love that you're focusing on others, Rod. Tell me more about that quote.
Well, I'll tell you where it came from. It actually came from a mentor early in my business life who actually explained to me and helped me understand really clearly, Gerry, that we live in a world where, 95% of the population are walking around suffering from low self-esteem and poor self-images. And he said, if you made a goal, like a daily habit, to look for something positive in people and find their strengths and focus on pointing that out every day, you could literally change people's worlds one person at a time, one day at a time. And I got really excited about that. And I thought, man, what would that be like a mission, just to look for something, to just shine a light on something good. I remember asking him, you hear people say, do you work on your strengths or do you work on your weaknesses? And I remember, just like yesterday, he said to me, Rod, if you work on your weaknesses, you'll end up with really strong weaknesses. He said, focus on your strengths and people will not even be able to see your weaknesses. And I just took that to heart, Gerry.
That's beautiful, Rod. Just beautiful. Rod, there's some really great videos of you on YouTube. You've inspired just thousands of people. You've helped transform people's lives. You've helped people really dream again, which is really inspiring to me. What's the bigger vision of Rod Norville going forward?
Well, it is just that, about dreaming again, because, we've all brought up pretty much the same. We all had goals and dreams when we were kids. We were going to be a rock star, an athlete, a movie star. We were going to do something great with our lives. And the challenge is life shows up, and we hear a lot of that can't happen, you can't do that, you're not good enough. And we settle into this sort of almost disease I call mediocrity, where we just have this no sense of kind of belief. And I just believe that, when we can make things happen, when we can step outside of the box, you can really create hope for people. And we live in a world where people are hopeless. They're walking around without hope. And I just think that's really what our mission should be, is to overcome challenges, not for ourselves, but just to be an example for others that they can overcome too.
That's extraordinary. Very, very extraordinary, Rod. Rod, as you know, this issue is all about relationships and building relationships, nurturing them. And, I look to you, and you're a real relationship master. What are some of your top tips sharing with listeners on how people can start nurturing relationships to really get to that next level in life?
Well, absolutely, and that is one of my favorite things to focus on. I build organizations. I do a lot of coaching with teams and whatnot. And one of the first things I say is, stop working on your business. And most people think, what kind of coaching is this? But what I mean by that, to elaborate, is I said you spend more time focusing on building relationships and building friendships, and the business will actually take care of itself. People don't want a boss. Most people are entrepreneurial or stepping out into that. They already have a boss. If they're doing something to supplement their income, they don't want another boss. They don't want another job. They want another stream of income. And truthfully, they can't have too many friends in this world. So when you can come alongside of somebody and pour hope and belief into them and see them somewhere where they can't see themselves, really what you're doing is creating that relationship. They'll quit on a boss, they'll quit on an employer, but they won't quit on a friend.
That's extraordinary. Just great, Rod. Rod, you have a very unique story, and it's a story that I think, is going to inspire readers and listeners. I want you to share a little bit of how your story, some of the challenges you went through, kind of got you to where you are now, and more importantly, going forward. How are you using this story to sort of propel your life forward now?
Absolutely. I'm no different than a lot of people that, have found any sort of degree of success. When you look back in hindsight, you really see that you failed your way the whole way there. And I've been in business, conventional business and MLM, network marketing, I realize now, since 1992. And looking back, I realized I did fail my way to success. People look at kind of my lifestyle now and some of the things I've been able to do and achieve, and they say, my goodness, how did you get so successful, or how did you achieve what you've achieved? I said, yeah, it only took me 20 years to become an overnight success. You can do it too, because really that's what it was. I mean, I grew up in a small city, Oshawa, in Durham region, Ontario, Canada, and everyone aspires, Gerry, to work at General Motors. It's, $30 an hour, $70,000 a year with pension and benefits. And I grew up, kind of a confused kid, because all my friends' parents that worked at GM or didn't work at GM, and the ones that didn't work at GM, I used to hear them talk about wishing they could work at GM. And the ones that worked at GM were miserable and confused, complaining all the time, wishing they didn't work at GM. So I was confused, wondering, what is this place that people that work there don't want to work there, people that don't want to work there want to work there? So I decided, as a child, I don't know, but I don't ever want to work there. And my ticket out was going to be through sports. I played rep hockey. That's the highest level I could have played at, AAA, all the way up. I went to my what's called OHL draft. That's before you go on to the NHL. And I watched my left winger and my right winger get drafted in the first round. I had 18 and 22 points more than both of them, but they were 6'3", 6'4", and I wasn't. I'm about 5'7" or 8 on a good day, depending how high the heels are on my running shoes. So that wasn't going to be the option for me. And I remember sitting at that OHL draft where they select, and sitting there in my shirt and tie with my brother, and I remember them sweeping up the popcorn around my feet, meaning the event was over, all the drafts had been picked, my name hadn't been called. And I remember Gerry just sitting there, tears in my eyes. I'm 16 years old. I'm looking at the front of the stage, and my brother says, Rod, I think we can go home now. And I looked at him, tears in my eyes. I'll never forget it. I said, they forgot to measure this. And I was pointing to my heart. I said, they forgot to measure this. And I don't know what stuck that day. I just said, I want to do something great with my life. I want to do something special. It's not going to be hockey. But I didn't lose that desire to win. I didn't lose that burning kind of I want to, a will to, I have to. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. So I went to college like everyone's brought up, to go to school, get a good education, get a good job, hopefully have pension and benefits, and work real hard and climb the corporate ladder. So I made it as far as college and realized after a few days that was just a high school with ashtrays. But I thought, if I'm going to be here, I better learn some things. And so I learned to play euchre. But I was struggling in college because I sat in taking business administration, and I remember sitting there listening to a guy at the front of the room say, when you guys graduate, you're going to make 80 to 100 grand a year. You're going to have company cars, golf memberships, and expense accounts. And we were excited. We would, turn to our buddy and say, hey, man, did you hear what he said? He's talking about us. We're fired up, until we graduated, Gerry, 3 years later, to find out that, $10 an hour to manage retail in a mall made it somewhat challenging to pay back, student loans and credit card debt. And it's funny to me now, looking back, thinking, my goodness, if that man knew we were going to make 80 to 100 grand a year with company cars and golf memberships and expense accounts, why is he standing at the front of the room making 50 teaching us how to do this? And it just didn't make sense to me. I started to question things right there and then. I didn't understand why I wanted to learn about business, but I was sitting in a classroom reading out of a textbook that was written by the teacher who had never been in business. I started to question things. I didn't know what I was going to do, and it was around that time my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, introduced me to the wonderful world of multi-level marketing. I had no idea at the time. He invited me to a friend's house. The next thing you know, the whiteboard's out, the circle's out, talking about this is you and you can have your goals and dreams. I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew goals and dreams for me meant doing something big with my life. So that was the first experience. I spent 5 years with the first company. That didn't work out, moved on to another company, to another, to another, to another. And over a decade, 5 companies, didn't make any money, actually spent more money than I made, but didn't realize what I was doing was learning. I was learning the mindset of an entrepreneur. I was learning all the principles of personal development and association and getting to big events and being around successful people. And I didn't realize that is actually what paved the way to what happened to me when I was ready and receptive to be introduced to the financial services industry, which is where I really applied what I learned in multi-level network marketing, why I'm so passionate about it, for people to supplement income, to make a change in their life, to do something great, because it is in that 10 years of failing in that industry is what brought me to the success that I have today. And that's why I tell people you can fail your way to success, Gerry.
Extraordinary. Rod, it's amazing. Persistence, determination, your desire to win. It's inspiring me just listening to you. Rod, you've done a lot. You've created a lot. You've inspired a lot. What do you want people to know about Rod Norville today?
For me today, Gerry, a little different. I just want people to know that I am the eternal optimist. I believe and want to see the best in everybody. I believe that there's a silver lining in every cloud. I believe that you can turn any situation into a positive. You can find a learning lesson. I love Les Brown and a lot of the big leaders that are out there, from Jim Rohn, and we all listen to and read the same stuff. And I remember the first time I heard Les Brown say, when you have a bad day, you never have a bad day. You have a character building day. When he used to say things like, when you fall down, land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up, land on your back. And I just took some of those things to heart, and I started looking at some of the challenges in my life, looking back, when I really see that they weren't bad days, they were character building days. When I see that the learning lesson that I took from it, how I was able to get stronger and get better. They say you can get bitter or you can get better. That's a choice. And I look at how many people take the alternate route. And I look at things in life, in business, and I just look at how few people are willing to do what it takes to win. And when I look at it, I go, it really isn't that difficult. There's people that are successful, and successful people leave clues. And if you're willing to emulate and model their habits, you'll see that it's just a handful of daily habits. Staying positive, personally developing, reading 10 pages of a good book a day, associating with successful people. It's not really difficult, but we all know what's easy to do is also easy not to do, Gerry.
Those are great, really great tips, Rod. Daily habits. I love that. Rod, there's a quote that you share here, and I want to share this with readers and tie it into the next question. You really do have to fail your way to success. You've talked about failure as a catalyst. How has failure been a catalyst for you, and what's been your greatest learning in life?
Absolutely. Greatest learning in life, when I say failing forward, and I actually stole that from John Maxwell. It wasn't even a year ago that I read John Maxwell's Failing Forward, and it really, all the pieces started to connect. It was almost like looking back, connect the dots kind of thing. And we've all heard hindsight's 20/20. And really what it was for me is I realized that when mistakes were made, that they weren't mistakes. And that comes actually from theater, the word I read one time, that a mistake is a mistake. And really what it is you can look at, you can adjust, and you can correct, but you can't actually even do that, and you wouldn't even know a good day without a bad day, And when we look at some of the things that get us down, I was doing a training with a team just this week, and I said, by a show of hands, how many people are dealing with something right now? I won't ask you to share what it is, but how many people in this room, it was about a room of 60 people, I said, how many people are dealing with something right now that you could have just as easily said today, not today, I'm not going to this meeting today, I just can't do it. And there wasn't a hand that didn't raise. Everybody's dealing with something, whether it's a personal challenge, a health challenge, a financial challenge, relationships. Everybody's dealing with stuff. And what I realized is when we look at these things we're dealing with, I said, isn't it funny how selfish we can be? I said, what if we could look at it from a different perspective, that what we're going through isn't even for us? What if what we're going through is just because somebody, whatever your beliefs are, in a higher power, a source, the universe, God, call it what works for you, what if it's a test because trusted in you is that you can overcome it, so you can be an example for others that they can overcome it too. So you can relate, so you have empathy, not sympathy, and you can look another human being in the eye and say, I know how you feel, I felt the same way. You know what I found out? That I didn't give up, that I persevered, and I was bigger, faster, stronger on the other side, and now there's thousands of people in lives that I can impact and affect because of what I was able to achieve and what I was able to overcome. Adversity makes us strong, Gerry, and we can make a difference and impact in the world just by going through it.
I've always said you're a lightning rod. That's it's an inspiration of the world. Rod, the last question that I want to share with readers, it's a different kind of question, and I think one that you're going to enjoy answering is, what do you want your family to say about Rod Norville? What's that legacy? How did Rod live his life?
Well, that's an incredible question, Gerry. One of my favorite ones, actually, because I've often spoken and talked about, at a funeral on the casket, on the headstone. Sorry, there's the birth date, and then there's your death date, and in between is that, as we know, a dash. And I sit and I think, my goodness, every one of us that have been to a funeral, and we're sitting there and we're thinking back on the person who's passed and left us, and we think about everything their life has been. Everything that they've said, everything they've done, everything they've accomplished, both good and bad, everything they've experienced, both good and bad, in a lifetime, Gerry, is represented by that dash. And I remember thinking years ago, what do I want that dash to be? What do I want that dash to be meant for? What do I want it to stand for? What do I want it to represent? And I realized that through this wonderful world of free enterprise, this wonderful world of entrepreneurship, and the opportunities available for those that are willing to set their dreams and diligently work towards them, I said for me it's financial independence, but not just financial independence, generational wealth. I said, I may not be the prettiest man in the world, I said, but one day, someday, one day, I want a picture of this ugly face, I'll say, over a fireplace, over a mantle, and there's a family sitting in the room saying, that's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-Grandpa Rod. He changed our family name. Norvilles used to work for money. Now money works for us. That is the legacy I want to leave, Gerry. I want my family to know that a difference was made. My mom and dad were both registered nurses. I know they didn't make six figures. I knew my grandparents. They didn't make six figures. I didn't know my great-grandparents, but it's a safe assumption, Gerry, they didn't make six figures. So 2005 was the first year I made six figures, and that day was the first time a Norville ever made six figures. And I know that's life-changing, and I want it to just carry on for generations and generations, and that means I got to work right now.
Absolutely amazing. I hope to see the city of Norville one day. Reach for more. Rod Norville, page 18 and 19 in Defyeneurs Mag, the top 50 relationship marketing tips. Rod, thank you so much for inspiring the world and just bringing your amazing, extraordinary energy to this issue of Defyeneurs. Thank you so much.
Hey, appreciate it, Gerry. I'm just humbled to contribute to this, and thank you so much for who you are in this world and the stand that you take. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.